Okay, so is this where I'm locking people up when I'm done with them?
Oracle, I'm done. Harley is subdued, and I have a prince.
That's not the word anyone's used.
Yes.
I don't find it.
So I'm
Again,
the scanner to only show prints that have traces of cloth.
I have.
Be careful. I rerouted a Wayne Tech satellite to show thermal scans of the island. The gardens are showing up hot. Something
What is what?
there.
Now we're after Ivy.
Oh well. On to another fun game.
Got more hotties to ogle. Batman's got to get his Batman. I was hoping the euphemism would come to me as I said it.
I think that the removal of emotion being the substance or the experience in which we observe in order to orient ourselves around life is it's impossible to do that and
But see, that already
Get
is an
to-
assumption, I think.
get to ethos without emotion. I think that again emotion plays a role in that.
I think your framing of that as being like the primary substance is itself a axiom. You'd have to defend that first, or are you just wanting us to take that as given?
Well, no, I'm suggesting that it is my argument is still the same, which is that there is as an intelligent being, obviously we make judgments, which is obviously what makes sense of our world, but the judgments that we make are on the experiences we have in the world.
Yeah, but again, experience and emotion aren't the same thing by a long
but
shot.
we experience things with emotion.
No, not necessarily.
Yes.
We experience things with
Yes,
senses just as
necessarily.
much. And senses don't entail emotions. See, again, that's why you're going, hunger is not an emotion. It's a thing you feel, yes, but that
Yes, again, that's a physiological experience.
Yes, so is all
However-
sense. So is experience largely. Experience is just anything you witness with your senses. You could experience a car crash simply by watching it.
Yes, but the point is you would be entirely detached from that, barring mirror neurons that actually allow you to orient yourself in what that actually feels like.
Okay, but see, a car crash is not primarily an emotive thing. I think you're assuming
I'm not suggesting that. I'm saying that
Well, you
emotions
are suggesting that,
present
though.
and
Not
a part of
necessarily.
that-
They wouldn't have to be.
Okay, I disagree with you in.
A sociopath could witness a car crash and feel nothing.
Well, okay, and that would be a
I'm not-
unnatural thing.
Well, sure,
That's the whole idea.
I don't know about
Yes, no, it
unnatural.
is.
Unhealthy,
It
you
is
could argue, but it's not unnatural.
It's not just unhealthy. It is sociopathy is a
You can't say that it's unnatural when it's a form of pathology that occurs in nature. Like to say it's not the healthy standard, yes. You can't,
No,
it's
it's
not
not
that doesn't
about-
make it unnatural.
It's not about the healthy standard. It's about this is an anomaly that is an actual problem with the brain.
Yeah,
in the
but,
same way that
but calling something
the
an anomaly is not the
dysphoria-
same thing as calling it unnatural.
Well, no, I can call something unnatural in the same way that we can call gender dysphoria unnatural. It's something that's a breakdown in the mental state of a person.
I would think you should use perhaps more precise language, because
I think
something-
unnatural is a fairly precise.
Well, it depends, I think. Because unnatural implies that it is something that does not occur naturally, and pathologies do occur naturally despite their unhelpfulness. Despite being damaging and unhealthy, that doesn't make them unnatural.
I would say that
I'm not finding Harley Quinn's fingerprints. Do I have to go to the other place first? Maybe I do. They did tell me where to
all the
go, I
way out to
suppose.
where?
The Botanical Gardens, that way. Oh, a long way from here.
So you actually have to go out to the.
How do I get out of here? Okay, I was in the right way. But my point is, experience. I think you keep conflating emotion with experience, and that is not
No, I'm not
fair.
conflating. What I'm saying is the way in which we experience life is made up of
I don't.
emotion
I
as
think
a-
that's an
as a
axiom.
contributor.
I think that needs more defense than just to say that it's the case.
Well, again, barring sociopathy, which I think is a
To say that emotions happen naturally, but that doesn't mean that we experience all life via emotions. Sometimes things you experience are things you would just simply witness.
the only thing that makes them have any sort of relatability to us is our.
I don't know that that's true either.
Yes,
because we're
100%.
also rational beings.
But the point is,
So
we
to say
are-
that, well, we feel emotions, therefore everything that's natural and correctly ordered
the point
should
is,
be
you're not.
felt. It's like, well, no, we are also rational beings. Therefore, you could just as well say everything we do should be rational, because that's how we relate to things. Because both are the default state of man.
But no, what I'm suggesting is that the default state is that, again, you have to, as the observer, have something to observe. And again, there is.
But observing does not see. Again, you don't observe emotions. I don't think anyone.
do. That's how you judge them. That is the very.
I don't
fact
think
of
anyone
how,
would describe them that way. You feel an emotion. You don't observe an emotion, because to observe implies a certain it's a sort of dissociative thing.
No, you have to be involved. In fact,
No, this is
yes.
odd is to hear coming from you, because I would have thought you'd been all about not observing and simply feeling. Whatever happened to sometimes you don't take the picture, sometimes you just look at the thing.
No, but my point is that by being present, you are not you're never a dissociative observer, because the reality is we are a part of the.
But that's not observation then.
No, it is.
I don't agree
this
with
is
this
where, what's his
definition of
name?
observation.
The guy I was talking about before, talking about the
Someone's going to pop out from the floor.
Paggio, where he describes this idea that as intellectual beings or as intelligent beings, we necessarily are participants and observers at the same time. We are not able to actually fully remove ourselves from the world in which we observe. And so we are judging while we are also experiencing.
I think you can consciously avoid that. That's in fact what a lot of forms of meditation and Zen and those such things are all
But
about.
what they're finding again is that it all especially on a symbolic, a imagery and a symbolism level, that we are able to make sense of our world by orienting ourselves in judgment within it. And so what Paggio argues is that it's not possible to dissociate yourself from the greater narrative. Essentially, you are.
But see, a narrative is not an emotion either.
Okay, but again, what I've said is that emotion is
Not helpful.
something that we must judge.
No,
Yes.
I don't agree with this. Whether Paggio says it or not, I don't think I agree with this definition.
Okay.
You don't have to judge an emotion. Sometimes you can feel an emotion in the same way that you don't have to judge a piece of art. You can simply observe it.
You are making a judgment whether or not you think you are.
I find that such statements about the minds of others are almost always to be treated with suspicion. To say that you know what someone else is doing.
No, you're making a judgment
That
to
they don't.
look at that or not to look at it. That's already a judgment.
I find that to be a sort of technicality that effectively proves nothing.
No, all I'm getting at is that, again, you're having to make those.
Because in my opinion, a
Assessments.
judgment is, I've said this before, an opinion is an action. Opinion means to opine. You have to actually put the thought in. I don't believe that what you're describing as a judgment, I think, again, perhaps my definition for judgment necessitates a certain amount of reason at the beginning.
It does.
Yeah, so it means if you haven't done that amount of reason, then you're not judging.
Agreed.
Well, okay,
I've
then
never-
therefore you could observe something without judging it.
No.
Okay, no, you just agreed with me and now you're not agreeing with me, so
I
make
said
up your mind.
the logic of you having to have logic, again, intelligence is required in order to make judgment.
Which means if you're not engaging your intelligence, you're not judging something.
Agreed.
And therefore, if you're observing something without engaging your intelligence, you're not judging it.
Okay.
So therefore, it's possible to observe and not judge.
No.
Okay.
You are always engaging. You are an intelligent being.
Yeah, but you don't always have to act on it.
Yes.
See,
That's Paggio would say, yes, you do.
Okay, I
You
don't
are
think
consistently
I necessarily
acting on
agree with
that.
him.
When you grab a cup of water, you are. He makes the argument by saying rituals exist inherently in our world, even in the way that we interact with people as humankind. He goes, if you don't believe me, try to go and talk to the back of somebody's head and find out how ritualistic that experience is, because the reality is they will turn around because that's a ritual. But the idea is,
what do rituals have to do with judgment?
Because what he talks about within the
That looks like where I'm going.
being an intelligent being present in the experience of life, he talks about this with making groups. He says, if you make a group, you are decidedly leaving some people out of the group and defining some people inside the group.
But these are deliberate actions.
Okay. But the point is, you make those judgments by being in life and just existing. You make those judgments every day when you wake up. You grab a cup of water. You are having a ritualistic experience because you know that it's a cup because of the fact that what its function is.
I think calling these ritual is a little bit excessive.
Well, okay, but the point is, you are engaging life by making judgments based on
But these are not what I would call judgments, though, and perhaps that's because I believe judgment necessitates active reason, I suppose, as opposed to passive reason, which says what it sounds like we're describing here. To say that I'm going to eat something because I'm hungry, you could argue is a judgment. Yes, because I'm responding to a stimulus that my body's giving me. But that's not a judgment in the rational sense where I'm not sitting down and considering, okay, what am I feeling and how long should I go before I eat and what health consequences is that going to have? That's an active judgment. Whereas to simply say, I'm hungry, I'm going to eat, it's like, to call that a judgment feels a little bit
But physiology is something that drives you. Would you agree?
In some circumstances. I think there's also times when you can not be driven by your physiology.
Agreed. Well, I would say you're driven by your physiology, but there's a time when you can control your physiology, sir. But physiology will drive you, and physiology is what emotions are made up of.
Sure, but is that what we're discussing, or we're talking about judging them, though?
No. I'm coming back to this idea again. When you experience anxiety, that's an emotion, and you experience it because of a physiological response based on stimulus. That's emotion.
Yeah, but that may not be.
So that can drive you to.
But it may be out of order with reality, though, and that's when judgment would have to be exercised rationally.
It can be in order to assert judgment.
But again, that's a rational process.
Agreed. You're using your intellectual process or your intelligent process in order to frame that, for sure. Again, that the judgment is there, but what I'm saying is that's you asked me initially to make sure that I substantiated my argument that emotion is the substance. That is what's being judged.
Not always.
I just demonstrated this by saying
I'm
the
saying
physiology
judgment sometimes is judged. Yes,
But
sometimes the thing you're judging is emotion. Sometimes it's not.
And it's substantive. Emotion is substantive. This is what I'm suggesting.
Okay, but that isn't what you said earlier. What you said earlier is it is the substance, as though it was the primary.
No, I didn't. I said it was substantive. I said it was a contributive substance. No.
You did.
I didn't. You may actually be able to go back and look, because I think you should.
You did.
Because I actually made
it is the substance, as though that's like life is emotion. And rationality is just your way of processing. I repeatedly
actually said it is a part of the substance of life.
Okay, if you're going to say part of, then okay, sure. But then that starts to become so banal as to be, what's the point in saying it?
No, it's not banal. What I'm saying is, if it's substantive, do you believe that the physiology of someone can drive them, which you already have established you do, in the same way that hunger drives you to eat. So then the physiology of an emotion can drive you to ethos, in that it can, in the same way that our mirror neurons reflect, okay, I'm feeling this particular way because this input or the stimulus of another person is emoting towards me, if that makes sense.
But see, that's where I still think you have to then to say that I feel this emotion that someone else is feeling or projecting at me or whatever, however you want to describe it, that you have to then qualify why should that determine ethical behavior. Because the atheist argument is, well, you know what it means to suffer, therefore you should know, and you can identify when someone is suffering, therefore any action that results in the suffering of others is a bad action. But that's not a logical statement.
No, that's
to simply
not what I
say,
said.
well then, okay, but see, then that's where I'm getting that, all I'm hearing is that argument again.
No, it's not an atheistic argument. It is a mirror neurons contribute to us being ethical.
They don't have to, though.
They don't have to.
Or in fact, I actually don't know. In fact, I'll even go so far as to say they don't.
No,
because to say
that's where I take issue.
Explain how then. Because if
I just said how.
No, you didn't. You just said we experience other people's emotions. That does not mean. How does that lead to ethical behavior?
Because when we
inevitably, I suppose, which I should say, because if you're going to say it can, again, we're going to get back to the stopped clock argument, where anything can be a marker of ethical behavior.
No, what I'm saying is you are suggesting that singularly logic can get you to ethos.
That is never what I suggested.
Yes, it is. 100%.
No, it isn't.
You said emotion isn't required.
No, I said emotion's not reliable. I said emotion's not a reliable judge.
Before, your argument was that logos could get you to ethos without
yes, I do think that that's still the case, but I
don't agree. This is why I'm saying you have to have the substantive in order to actually then.
No, because I think there's plenty of rational explanations for why you make ethical choices.
I agree,
but I don't necessarily
but I would say
think
there's plenty of emotional reasons why.
What would they be other than it would make me feel bad to do that?
Yeah, that's contributory.
Well, okay, and
a
society governed by people who don't do things that make them feel bad.
I'm not suggesting it would be a wise idea to govern an entire society.
Yeah, but that's why I'm saying it's not reliable. Simply the fact that it can, again, stop the clock. It can be a correct guide, but it can also be wildly askew because emotions vary wildly.
Sure, but this is why, again, God has given us the ability with mirror neurons to be able to express and to experience each other in that context.
But this is where you keep redounding to that. How does that lead to ethical behavior by necessity?
Because
simply say, okay, because when you say mirror neurons, what you're meaning, I assume, is this person's feeling an emotion, and I can sense that emotion, and thus I feel it with them. That's what we would just call sympathy.
No. It's not inherently sympathy. It's also something that informs, like, for instance, why is it that the motivation, for instance, for somebody to engage in a inquiry about somebody's well-being is provoked by, and that care or kindness, if you want to call it that, which again is an ethical behavior, is provoked or burst from you experiencing, okay, I walk into a room and I have on a mirror neuron level an experience that somebody else is having a hard time of something.
And why does caring about that matter? That's the question. Because to say simply that I feel it, it's
not about whether you feel it or not. It engages it the same way that a counselor or a psychologist can understand where somebody is coming from on
understanding doesn't. Okay, this is where I'm getting at is I'm not denying your claim, but again, how does the human capacity to empathize with others, for lack of...
It's not empathy either. You keep coming back to empathy and sympathy. It's not. It's an informing of somebody else's emotional state, period.
That's empathic. But I feel like it's being pedantic to criticize that.
No, empathy or sympathy is us either experiencing something with somebody or...
But that's what you're describing.
Like, okay, I could... No.
You're describing that because of the fact that my neurons can map onto your neurons and vice versa, that leads to an understanding of other people's emotions.
It leads to.
So that's what most people would describe as empathy/sympathy, because those are nuanced words that don't necessarily mean the same thing. But my point is that we can all agree that that's what we're talking about. Whether it fully describes it, can you accept that that's what most people would describe what you're describing as?
Sure.
So my point is, the human capacity to empathize with others does not provide you with an ethic by default.
I disagree. Not by default, maybe, but it does provide you with an ethic. 100%.
I don't think it does, because what that ultimately comes down to is
My kindness to reach out to somebody else.
how is that a good thing?
Provoked.
How is it a good thing that you did that? Because
it's
saying, well,
kindness.
I felt it, and therefore I did it, and that makes it good. It's like, well, that's not an ethical
No,
thing.
I'm not. I didn't say I felt it and therefore I did it because it's good. What I said is, it doesn't make it good because I felt it. It makes it good because my emotion provoked me to action.
Okay, but so the point then is that the action was the good thing.
Sure.
Okay, so therefore emotions, that's what I'm getting at.
Pathos provoked me to ethos, which is kindness. Kindness is an ethos.
But that's where I'm saying emotions don't correspond to ethics. Simply
I didn't
because
say that they corresponded. I said.
well, I'm
that
saying
they
the
could
point of the
lead you on a
matter, the
path
fact of the
level
matter
to
is
singularly in the same way
that the act of kindness had to be a good thing whether or not you felt it or not. So you could just as easily be kind to someone for not emotional reasons.
Sure, that's true.
And thus giving emotion credit for the ethical action, I think it's the action that matters. It doesn't matter why you did it.
I don't disagree that's the action that matters. What I'm saying is that action is not based solely on logic, is what I'm getting at. You can take action based on you being an absolute.
But see, well, we're not.
buttock.
This is where I expose the difference we're getting at, though, is that rationality is what actually helps you understand ethics.
100%.
Emotion doesn't.
I agree with that.
Well, that's what my entire argument was hinged on.
You have to
Because
frame
when you're saying
ethics
emotion
through-
could inspire an ethical action,
Yes.
but that's not what I was ever describing. What I was
Okay.
describing as emotion cannot tell you what an ethical action is.
Agreed.
Well, then that's
So I'm
the
sorry.
crux of
that's-
all of this.
Yes, I totally agree. because-
Meaning, a society that based itself entirely on emotion wouldn't know what ethics was.
Agreed.
It would just know what made them feel good.
100%.
And I don't want to live in that society.
No, I agree with you, and I actually made the statement in our previous
Well, that's
discussion
not what I
that
want.
basing a society on emotional standard would be a terrible idea because
Well, I think
people
even
feel
an
things-
individual level, it wouldn't be a great idea. Because how do
it's
you know
not a
you're
great
right?
idea, but
how do you know your emotions are correctly calibrated?
correct, other than to judge them. That I agree that
That's
that
not what I wanted you
intelligent judgments made
Okay,
based on.
bad times.
This is why I say your intelligence is the self, if you will. That in fact, Pageau argues that if I'm talking about emotion as the substantive is always the what is it that Aristotle talks about, the potential versus the actual, and he basically says the substantive is the potential and the actual is once you make the judgment, which I agree. And what I'm suggesting is the substantive must be present, and I don't believe that it's singular to say that you can make a judgment barring the substance. Now, it's not always emotion, maybe, but sometimes, and oftentimes I would say with humanity, it is the substantive of emotion can drive you to an ethological decision, and then you frame it and maybe
pole dancing bat.
and maybe make it more of a routine or a habit or a ritual, to borrow from Pageau.
So-
because of
But
the judgment.
here's what we were getting. This is, I think, when I say rationality is what leads you to emotion, I don't mean rationality is what inspires or emotion. When I say reason is what can lead you to ethics, I don't mean reason can inspire ethical action. I mean ethics can only be understood
Sure.
by
That
a
much I
reason.
agree. Yes, that I agree.
Well, that's what I was always saying. When I say leads to, I don't mean provokes. I meant
yeah.
leads to in the
So you are
comprehensive
you were correlating.
well, no, I'm talking about understanding, as in you don't know what an ethical action is without reason. Because an emotion might
I
inspire
would
you
say
to an ethical
intelligence or
action.
judgment, but sure, if you
Well,
want to use
reason is
reason.
yeah, okay.
Sure.
Reason is intelligence and judgment and these things. I
Sure.
mean, that's in the broadest
That's fine.
sense. But when I say leads to, I don't mean provokes. I mean leads to in a discovery sense.
But would you not agree that, because up to this point, and I certainly have already disagreed with you on the idea of, and I haven't read the book, so possibly I need to read the book to understand how they particularly frame this, but I have a feeling that I disagree with the sentiment that empathy is a problem, because I do think that the way in which we interact with other people's emotion is a positive. It can't be missing from... judgment can't be missing from that, but again, emotion is the substance that we interact with in our human experience.
Well, here's the thing. A person without reason belongs in an asylum.
Agreed.
A person without emotion could live a functioning life.
No, person without emotion
could live a functional life.
No,
could.
Sociological.
The fact of the matter is they could. So psychopaths can be well adjusted. Psychopaths can live functional lives.
I disagree completely.
They absolutely can.
They do not live healthy lives.
They
may not live.
I said functional lives, by the way. I didn't say healthy lives.
Okay.
My point is they don't belong in an asylum because they're not a danger to themselves and others. They could, by reason alone, live a functional life.
I would argue that they are a danger to themselves and others. It may not be in the most, again, on a societal level, would we specifically punish it the way that they are interacting? Probably not.
The fact of the matter is...
the way that they interact with people is hurting others.
No.
Yes.
That's... 100%. No, I don't know. Don't agree.
Well, okay.
Because, again, it's about action. It's about how they behave. And you can say, I don't feel the emotions that would correspond to the things I'm supposed to feel, but my actions are rooted in reason and are aimed at ethics, which we've established you can understand via reason. Therefore, a person could live an ethical life without needing emotion. Now, that's not to say that would be the ideal life for them. I'm not making that argument. But my point in the separation and why, again, I would say reason triumphs is that a life without emotion could be lived ethically. A life without reason, I don't think could be.
I would, and this is where I would disagree. I don't think that you can take any one of them singularly. I don't think that you can say singularly you can use ethics.
But see, the thing is, there are psychopaths who have not committed crimes.
Again, you're bringing it down to a sociological deviance issue. I'm not talking about deviance. I'm talking about ethics. Do they live an ethical life? I doubt it.
Okay. What are you going to base your doubt on? Because to say you doubt it is not an argument.
Because the way that they interact with others is devoid of emotion.
You need to watch some Star Trek. Because of all people in the show, Data is actually one of the most ethically positive because of the fact that he's solely reason. Where you're going, okay, I understand the tenets of civilization, of interpersonal reaction and ethics. I know how people should behave around other people. And they might even be able to say rationally, because you can absolutely understand rationally, this person is feeling this emotion. I can tell by their body language and their facial expressions. That can be understood rationally. Sure, and therefore you could decide, I can tell this person's in a bad mood, and because I wish to live an ethical life, I can reach out and offer assistance. Because I feel some warm compulsion like, ooh, I feel for you and I want to help because something in me is...
to a mushy-gushy thing.
Well, I don't mean to... Forgive me for the language, but I'm saying it's not that it's not conspired by a concern that wells up within me. It's simply it could be a rational decision, and that would not make it, in my opinion, any less ethical.
You're removing maybe the element of experience in that, but I would say the very fact that you, on a mirror neuron level, are picking up on those cues means that you are feeling that emotion.
I don't agree.
Whether or not because
psychopaths can understand these things. They don't feel them, but they can understand them.
No, they cannot.
Yes, they can.
By definition, a psychopath cannot.
They can understand. They don't feel. That's a different thing. A police profiler, when he's interrogating someone, does not feel the emotions they're feeling. They know how to respond.
But he's using his mirror neurons in order to actually engage what they're doing.
Okay, but you realize you're describing neurons. You're talking about a mental process. This is in the brain.
Mirror neurons
it's rational.
Are emotive.
Yeah, I think that's
based on a doctoral study that one of my friends actually did.
That doesn't make it correct.
No, I'm saying he is the doctorate.
That doesn't make his research right either.
Okay, but I'm saying mirror neurons are emotive.
But but this is now we're going to have to start getting into what's emotion and what's experience again, because again, to observe something with your senses and your faculties, you could make the same judgment call and say, I can tell that this person's feeling this way. And you don't have to feel that way to understand that.
I agree, but
Therefore,
you are having
ooh, hello.
you are using your emotional understanding in order to.
But see, the fact of the matter is the reason why psychopaths are dangerous is because they can understand these things and choose to manipulate people using these things. Psychopaths are not devoid of emotional understanding. They are just devoid of emotional experience. This is why narcissists are dangerous, is that they know how to manipulate you, but they won't feel any guilt for doing so.
Agreed, which is why it's dangerous.
Yes, but that means that they have emotional understanding because they know how to manipulate people using their emotions.
But that's why actual emotional experience is contributory and in fact necessary to health in life.
But hang on.
So you talked about like they can live perfectly normal lives.
I did not say healthy lives. I said functional lives.
I guess I would submit that functional and health are coincide in my opinion.
Well, see, I don't agree. But my point is, all that I'm getting at is that you're just what you're describing is, well, you can't understand emotions without feeling emotions, and I don't think that's true. Demonstrably so.
Sure.
People who don't feel emotions can understand emotions, and they can use those emotions against people. That's why they are dangerous people.
Sure. If you want to argue that they understand emotions, I would argue.
Again, I'm saying understanding. When I say understanding, I will always mean rationally.
The tenets.
Because experience, if that's the word you're wanting to use for emotion, is a separate thing. You don't have to experience something to understand it.
Sure, but again, understanding the tenets of a culture doesn't mean you actually
belong to it. No,
know the culture. I don't.
You can understand. Again, it's a matter of understanding. This is starting to get into the sort of Emily the Blue Scientist phenomenon, where it's like, yes, do you understand something fully if you haven't experienced it? Because you could make the argument that experience is a part of understanding, so there will always be a part of understanding you lack. But I mean, you can get to a level of understanding that compensates for that lack, I think, is the point. So in that, you could live a life acting like an emotional being because you know what emotional beings act like, and not ever experience the emotions you're portraying.
Sure.
That is possible. Now, I'm not saying that this makes a person healthy. I'm simply saying that a person could live a functional, and by functional I mean not criminal, not exploitative, not destructive life.
Sure.
By not having emotion. Whereas someone who has no reason, I think we would agree, can't live a functional life. Because reason is a necessary guide through life.
I think reason is
whether they have emotional
intrinsic,
intelligence or not.
I would argue that
you're in the fray.
I would argue that intelligence is a more intrinsic human experience.
Okay. Well, and that explains then why I would say that it would be the dominant one, if only because while it wouldn't be good to live without either, it is at least possible to live without one. Again, I'm not defending it as like that you could live a perfectly normal, totally okay life. Although I do think it's worth noting that there are psychopaths who try to do just that, and you could treat it as a form of disability, which I suppose technically it is.
Yeah, 100%.
But that doesn't mean people with disabilities can't live normal lives either. Provided they are still, every time you attack that guy, you're gonna.
Oh my word! I don't understand why I can't get.
So yes, a person who doesn't feel emotions might be stunted in a way, but that doesn't make them not. That doesn't mean they can't live a decent life. In the same way that someone who has some physical deformity can't also live a decent life, despite the fact that they're no doubt going to suffer more than the other people because of that.
Sure. But again, I think to suggest that the physiologically substantive, it can be removed from the world that we live in is a very
I'm not saying that would make it a good world. I'm not saying it would be good if we all didn't have emotion. I don't think that would be the correct thing at all. I'm simply saying the reason why I don't think it's
possible for us to engage a world that way.
Possible, yes. It wouldn't be the world any of us want.
But I'm saying for everyone, it would be such a what is the name escapes me. The idea of purely five senses philosophy.
I ain't got a clue.
I can't recall the term for it.
I thought this was what I'm supposed to do with you. So what am I supposed to do with you?
I mean, there has to be I guess what I'm arguing is that there is a teleological necessity to emotion.
Well, okay, necessity and telos aren't the same
Purpose,
thing.
if it
Purpose
has
is
a
not
purpose and a
necessity.
function,
A purpose is not the fact that something has a purpose does not necessitate that its purpose be fulfilled. Necessity and purpose are different things.
yes.
Now, I do agree that emotions have a purpose, but I don't necessarily think that makes them a necessary thing. You didn't like that my answer was that the purpose of emotions was simply to be experienced, even if they don't lead to anything.
I would say that they are meant to inform. That is their purpose. Teleologically, I would say emotion, in the same way that it's substantive to life, your five senses inform, your emotions inform, your whatever, but then all of that must be then filtered through the grid of intelligence, for sure.
But see, you even seemed to disagree with that previously, though. That you didn't like
no,
that
it's not
emotions
that-
had to be judged.
It's not that I disagreed with it. What I meant, what I was intending to say was that emotions on their own, in the same way that logos on its own can lead to ethos, and that.
Well, but when
again,
you say lead to, you mean provoke an ethical action.
Correct.
And I don't think that's why I don't.
So
to say
the-
leads
you're-
to
you're-
ethos. I think
I was
ethos is not an action. Ethos is a code of conduct.
See, and I would say I was talking about it more of as an eventuality more than I was talking about it as a code of conduct. Does that make sense?
Well, yes, and that's why I think the fundamental disagreement is
Sure.
that leading to, in my opinion, just means
Tougher than before.
on a understanding level.
No, in that way, I would agree with you that there is.
But see, then we come back to Stoicism and say, what's your problem now?
Well, and again, in that context, I would say my misunderstanding of initial Stoic ideas was very much that, and I still have to substantiate this for myself. I don't know that I'm right on the Stoic bandwagon right now, but I would say I don't know what particular research I did come across that was like, essentially, emotion is
You got bugs all
like
up in
if
your
you
face.
have not framed something yet, it's automatically bad.
I would say if that is said by anyone, which I have not heard, I think I can fairly comfortably say that is a misunderstanding of Stoic principles.
That's fair.
Because the only source of any Stoic idea to that effect that I have found is it pre-qualifies that an emotional reaction that is out of sorts with reality or with reason, that is negative and should be avoided. So that's what the Stoics described as passions, is they're saying baked into the definition of that was emotions that are disordered. It's not all emotions, it's just emotions that are disordered. Emotions that are not disordered are completely fine and not to be second guessed or, or excised. So if someone is saying that, I think they are misunderstanding. So there's electricity going to this room. Here's wires leading to different rooms. Presumably the way to turn off the electricity is to follow these, but I don't.
So,
Riddler, you're so
do you
clever.
feel like you've effectively discussed that? Is there anything
Well,
you
have you
want to
converted?
add? I know. I certainly think the breakdown was that I was talking about it more as an eventuality, and that it could lead to it in that context more than I was talking about it being an actual pattern behavior. In order to create any sort of intentional pattern, or again, if you want to use Pageau, ritual, you decidedly need intelligent choice.
Oh, so this was the right room, and I was in here and I didn't know it.
So that part I
What's
don't.
this nonsense? So there's Titan in this room, and I got to do something with it.
Yeah, Diggle is
Modified release
Diddle-
Joker targeted
diddle is-
tampered with. I see.
Diddle is Diddy.
So I have to somehow disable the electricity without tripping that. And also, I don't see where any of this stuff down here goes. What am I doing here? Does this change your mind at all?
It's clearly changed yours, Mr. BDSM.
No, there's nothing at all about this. I'd like to point
She's
out
tied up in ropes.
those are hers, though.
So if they're her ropes,
She
it's
controls
okay.
them. It's not like it's something I want to do to her. Where's the electricity in this room? Hang on, the electricity doesn't lead to this room at all. These wires stop here. I'm fundamentally confused. Track Harley was fine and shut down the generator, powering the flooded corridor. Well, that's exactly where I thought I was. I just got to blow this room up.
Hang on. Can you pause?
Well, the game, I could just stop playing it. Did I not already do this? I did already do this. Thanks for that, Riddler. So it seems as though I've done the thing I've done already. And it doesn't appear to have had the impact I want. Before I shut down the generator, powering the flooded corridor. I mean, is this not it? Is this not the generator room? What happens if I just blow stuff up? Wait, okay, maybe I was supposed to talk to him.
The Joker's men may try to retake the generator.
So this is the generator. So what do I blow up? Ha 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 ha.
So I finished the Book of Five Rings.
Oh, that was fast.
I did, yep. And I loved it. Unpopular and maybe rather, it's going to be probably a bold opinion that most people are going to disagree with. I thought it was better than The Art of War.
I don't know that would be the case.
You don't think that people would disagree with that?
I'm not so sure.
I think it was instantaneously more applicable, I suppose. Maybe I would say that. Both of them were great books. I'm not trying to deny that, but I think the Book of Five Rings was very, very easy to engage, like on a life level.
I'm mostly frustrated by why I don't know what I'm doing in this room. Unless I'm supposed to destroy this. Hang on. Oh. I didn't recognize that as being a screen I could diddle.
Oh, I thought that you saw that. I'm sorry. I would have drawn attention to it.
Because it didn't look like the normal screens I can diddle. Oh, I had it. Come on. Oh, it's a double whammy. Oh. It's a triple. I'm carving through concrete here. Come on. Whoop, 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 whoop. You're very, very dumb. Okay, well, that's that. I have not read it. I have not read either, actually. I only own one of the two, and I have not read it.
Oh, so. You haven't read The Art of War yet?
No. I took a glance at it, and I was like, oh, this seems like something I'd have to be in the right headspace for.
I mean, it's very dense, but
yeah.
Always one step ahead.
Oh, well, is it a Zen thing or is it not?
No.
Because it's Japanese in origin.
It's very, like, if you're a martial artist, you're going to immediately have context for it.
Well, being that it was written by one for ones.
Yeah, but he does something that's similar to the essence of Kung Fu, which is, if for those that don't know, Kung Fu actually is not just strictly martial arts. It's actually self-mastery within your given field. So it's like you can have Kung Fu as a barber.
Yes,
if
and
you
the
know
way
how
you
to
put on the jacket and take off the jacket, as I understand it.
Well, I mean, yeah, but it's more than, it's like the whole concept of if you're good at making soup because you're a chef, then you have Kung Fu. Like, it's that kind of stuff. And so it's something similar is stated in the book in that he consistently talks about this idea of, in order to pursue the way, you have to actually understand that it goes beyond just sword play and goes beyond just the way of the of the samurai is as far as what they do functionally. It's more about how they think and what they do to orient themselves in life. One of the things that people kind of trope a little bit is that he repeatedly says in the book, you must practice this repeatedly, you must think on this repeatedly, you must learn this, with intention or whatever, because what he gets at is that if you just read this book, it's not going to sink in. You have to actually allow these thoughts and ideological contexts to permeate your psyche a little bit. And so
I don't think I needed to go this way. I was simply trying to explore a path, but
this
has opened up an
like
entirely
some sort
new
of a
area.
bypassed option.
I didn't think so. I thought this was just going to be like a side thing where maybe there's a bit of a puzzle or something, or a Joker thing, but this has now gotten quite involved, and I'm now hearing voices. Oh, and am I back? Oh, I am. What? This is weird. Oh, hi.
He's here!
I'm here. Soon you won't be. Whoa. Okay, hi. I don't know what I did that for. Jordan, whatever.
Are you okay?
Do I look okay? They were gonna kill me.
Wow, you ungrateful punk. Yeah, but you're not dead. So how about some gratitude, pal?
Oh man, no one's come out since. You got to help them.
I didn't think I was going the right way when I did all that, but maybe I did. Oh, wait, what? This was what? Oh, great. I gotta go help more people who are not gonna thank me.
Anyway, I actually really enjoyed it, though. It was good.
Well, what about it? What's
one
the
of-
pitch? What's the sales pitch?
So
Read it because...
he primarily uses the idea of the sword to engage you about how you should orient yourself in life, but he talks about great one is if you are fighting an opponent who is stronger than you, you have to attack the corners, meaning it's not good to go straight to the actual heart of the matter. If they are a stronger individual, you have to attack the corners first. And I think that applies across the board. Like, say you're debating somebody that's better at debate than you, you have to then go for the corners first before you actually go for their point. If you are
Oh, this is actually going to be tough.
engaging army, this is where I go. The context of the Book of Five Rings is able to be applied to the large scale, whereas I think the Art of War is harder to apply to the individual from the large scale.
Well, unless you are the general of a large army.
Right, exactly.
You're
But
telling me you're not getting anything?
I don't know.
As opposed
Sorry.
to... Because admittedly,
Okay, that
her in-game outfit's better than this.
it is, but I mean, what has she got in her hand?
Is that it? Is that all I have? I have 1, 2. That's all I have.
So what's Calendar Man? The Great White Shark.
I don't remember unlocking him. What?
A crooked financier? What? No.
Call me Ivy. Of course I love you.
Well, that's weird. Major player. I ain't never heard of him. Calendar Man doesn't matter. Where even is he? He ain't in here. Calendar Man was so useless they didn't put him in. What's Richard Nixon doing here? Oh, here he is, Calendar Man. He kills people on days of the week. Thematic crimes on certain holidays. He's dumb. Everyone knows he's dumb. Oh, right. Yes, I forgot what I was
Yeah,
doing.
no, I think that was a useful one. There was another one that he talked about varying your strategy constantly. I think that's obviously a wise one.
What's going on there?
But
There's a man trapped in goo.
one of the most fascinating ones as a martial artist I really appreciated was when he talked about, as a single fighter, how you fight multiple enemies at one time. And he talks about this idea of fanning, where he said you have to fight long versus short, which makes sense when you're fighting multiple attackers. And then he said, because I've always heard of the idea of stacking when you're fighting multiple fighters, which is that you are having to kind of put people in a line, if that makes sense. And it's useful. I mean, I've seen it work. I've experienced that it works. But one of the things he gets at is play the long and basically wait to see who attacks first and then attack those people first as they come in, which seems a little bit redundant, but it helped me go, okay, you don't have to try to deal with each individual person as much as you're kind of fanning the attacks as they come in, similar to what Batman does, to be honest. But anyway, I thought it was a good book. And then obviously I'm rereading Crime and Punishment just for kicks.
Is this guy going to move? He has not yet. I'm going to... That's not what I wanted. That could have gone very wrong. What they said I've got to do is I got to take out this guy in the tower without being spotted, which I presumably have to do without even attacking any of these other guys. Or maybe I could do a silent... Well, no, because they've got these collar thingies, which means even if I took one of them out, most likely they'd like know that I've done that. Maybe here is my access. What? Well, I thought he could have grabbed it, Batman. So help me if this puts me like right next to a dude. Okay, thanks, Bats. Well, that was useless. That was a lot of progress they just decided to yank from me. Okay, yeah, that didn't work. We're doing this my way now, fellas. Yep.
They're like, nope, our way.
Well, I was close. I think that vent up in the middle is the right one, but apparently you can't jump there. I have not read this book, so... Have I done what?
Read anything?
I'm still working on that one book I've been working on for like months about the Inklings, because it's big and because I'm being slow. I don't want to be slow, but I have very little time. I don't always... I try to do it like, I'll just read in the evenings because that'll get it done. But then sometimes I'm like, can I do something else this evening? Sometimes when you read a bunch of evenings in a row, you're like, I'd like to do something else. So I have not been as fast about it as I would like. But I'm still enjoying it as I've been going through it.
All right, let's remove his cap from his stapled head.
You got to get up there without getting seen.
We're going to go peel some wigs and split some caps up in this joint.
It is very wet and sweaty.
Hey, can I move?
No.
Wow, that was
You got to take that
ridiculous.
guy out without moving.
Well, it wasn't letting me move.
That's the vent. You want to go in there.
Do I, or do I just want to
Well,
choke this guy out? Let's at
no, you-
least experiment.
well,
Okay.
Not going to work.
That was
Well, here's the
not
thing.
Cool.
You could potentially stealth take one guy out, but the problem is they're all wearing the life sign monitor thing. So presumably,
okay.
if you take one of them out, then the guy's going to know that that's happened.
That seemed a little ridiculous. I barely.
Yeah, I never liked that mechanic because it basically completely takes the stealth out. Where it's like the whole point of Batman is you got to pick the right order and like who do you get at first, so that you get to the last guy and he's the last one, but he doesn't know he's the last one.
Oh my word! I understand. Somebody,
Skip.
please help me. It's Batman. I'm here. Can you please shut up?
Yeah, bing bong, it's me. Give me the hostages. I forgot what I was going to say.
I don't know.
Something about something.
Oh, did you see the tragedy that is what's happened with Billy Joel?
Some sort of medical thing, and he's canceling concerts. I saw
Yeah,
about
it's like
that.
a major medical thing. Like he's not.
They're saying it's that he's just getting treatment for it. It's not like an immediate concern sort of thing.
Walk away.
He's not gonna. You're gonna stare at that corridor and zone out because he's on the spleef. Go now, he's looking away. Ooh, that was close. So I don't know that it's anything to be immediately concerned about, but he's in England, so I wasn't going to be seeing any of those shows anyways.
Well, sure, but
I'm still sad that he's not at the Madison Square Garden anymore. Makes me sad because I had a sort of bit of a bucket list thing, is I'd have liked to have seen him perform there. He still has, I mean, obviously he had up until he quit the longest lasting residency for like years, decades even. But evidently that's no more, which is a shame. Since we're on the topic of music. How do you go about getting new music these days?
Me?
Yeah, what's your process of how do you find stuff?
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think you'd really thought much about that. Nope, you're gonna lose it. You just walked up that ledge and you didn't care who was on it.
I didn't mean to. I intended to sneak up and see whether I could.
Well, I'm Bats, and I'm coming up.
I mean,
You can say you
So-
don't, that's fine.
I typically use Spotify suggestions to at least
At this point, I'm just
Provoke.
too hipster to use Spotify.
some of the changes that I have. The other thing is I will come across stuff in real time in life, whether it be on other people's like social media profiles with
their computers,
Instagram,
which I
people
steal.
constantly using, and even out like there have been several times where I've been out like eating or something, and I'll hear something on the radio and go, I like this, and I'll just add it.
Well, sure,
it's
but
like-
that I suppose is but that's more circumstantial. You could say, how do you go about it purposefully, if you do?
If I'm intentionally trying to find new music, I mean, I still use Django. Can I?
Open the, okay, well, he's committed to opening that vent. I was thinking maybe I could get in before he started open firing, but he could not.
But I use that some. But I mean, sometimes I'll look up artists that I've listened to in the past and find out whether they've got new stuff.
That's
I
what
mean,
I've been doing lately.
I'm a really
Well,
strong.
Not exactly, but
I'm a stronger follower of Olivia Rodrigo and
it. I don't know who that is. Skip this.
Are you serious? You're being serious right now?
Why would I joke? Skip this.
I can't.
You can.
Joker's men are all wearing.
What was that little Benny Hill shuffle you did?
It didn't let me go. Benny Hill.
That was a little bit like dee 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 dee.
No, he. So I'm gonna go and nope.
I don't think he saw you, but you do got to be quick. Good thing ripping a grate off the wall can be done silently. And it's also good that he won't notice that grate's not on the hole anymore.
So what was I saying about?
Something about you're following people.
Olivia Rodrigo.
Do they know
That's
you're doing
surprising.
this? Are the police involved?
I'm following her and Sabrina Carpenter a lot more than I thought I would. Sabrina Carpenter, I know, is not probably the most like.
Here's the thing. I admit to having.
Oh, are you kidding me?
Well,
Escape!
Well, the question is, where's this going to put you? You might just put you right next to a guy.
That was
Well, quick. Don't be caught out.
stupid.
Don't show him your hiney. It was humorous. I have an admittedly contrarian instinct, which I know is not necessarily the right tack.
Oh, this is the same freaking dude.
Well, yeah, you fell down a hole and had to start over. He's turning that way, though. What? Okay, he got you there. He faked me. Well, you're not dead yet. You just given up.
Because he's going to pull his little doodly-doo. Dropping all the hostages, doodly-doo.
So I know that it makes you seem insufferable if you just choose to not like things because they're popular, but I sometimes have that instinct where I'm like,
Yeah, but
if the world likes you, there's probably a reason I shouldn't.
Sabrina Carpenter is great.
I only know of a handful of songs, and so maybe I'm being unfair. I'm not going to do anything about that, though.
Olivia Rodrigo, you'd appreciate.
Okay, and why is this?
There's also one that I really like called Natalie V2, and that one, it's a very weirdly stupid, prosaic.
This doesn't sound like a recommendation. Here's someone you'd like. They're dumb and uncreative.
No, well, no, I'm sorry, not prosaic. It's very what's the word I'm looking for? Esoteric.
Oh, well, that's completely different.
No, exactly. But she's got a cool vibe.
Okay. Now, I was asking how you come across these things, not necessarily who's who.
I've just literally, so on my Spotify list, I typically
Spotify sounds like your primary.
Yeah, primarily. And I have a list that I built called My Playlist 20, and I don't know why, but that's just what I called it forever, and it literally has tons of
Get up
random
there, bats.
things. And what I do is there's a setting that you can leave it on that not only shuffles your music, but also then allows them to make like random recommendations that just shuffle in. And if I come across something that I'm like, that's good, then I'll follow that song, and then I typically look up the other songs that they do from that artist if I like them. So that's kind of what is your methodology?
That wasn't what I wanted. So I've been using for a long time just the plain old YouTube, because I like the fact that you can get.
I found YouTube to be very.
Well, if you're using it,
that.
well, they have. I mean, if you have an Android, you can do things to the YouTube Music app that YouTube probably doesn't want you to do. But as far as I know, it can't stop you. Well, if you download a patch manager, which allows you to make edits to APK files, and then you download the APK for YouTube Music, you can make edits to said YouTube Music and make it do things you think it ought to do.
What? Recommend music?
Well, no, you can do things that they would ordinarily charge you for. So this was the right way. And then I should do it myself. I just wanted to kill you. I forgot what my point was. So I've been using that because the thing about YouTube, the advantage it has is that it has like a literal decade's worth of watch history to draw from. So like the YouTube algorithm knows what I like because it's known everything I've liked for a decade.
Okay, you're getting hamstrung in this hallway.
I'm hamstringing this hallway, you'll find.
I don't find.
I can't see, but neither will they when I'm done with them.
You're punching at air.
Well, what?
They're
What
dropping.
now? No, I took out the guy who can drop them.
Now they're just moving him about just for no reason.
What?
Just to be.
Oh no, they were being courteous. Well, that was interesting. And then what I've been doing lately, because I don't exactly know what prompted it, that and what I wanted, not what I wanted, not what I wanted, not what I wanted, is I've been actually listening to albums more purposefully. So it's like there's plenty of people I've seen that'll be like, I hear one or two songs from, and I'm like, oh, they're kind of all right.
The hostages.
I don't think they need to.
Find out whether they actually are grateful or whether they're just dicks.
Who cares? That face ain't grateful.
I thought I was working for Dr. Young. I had no idea Joker was involved until he burst in the lab.
That is most certainly the same voice actor as Zaz.
Back over there. I always get buzzed through. There's a hidden door, but, well, you know, it's hidden.
I'll find it. Stay here.
Yeah, see, he wasn't of any use to me.
I just work here. What good is killing me?
What good is living? You're asking the wrong questions, pal. Okay, but I've been doing that. and mostly it's kind of critical listening as an active hobby that I've been engaging, where it's like, because I have an hour-long commute every evening, my basic thought was, well, I might as well do something with it. So I listen to a full album and sort of, I find that because the one thing that gets frustrating about the YouTube thing is that sometimes it's like, you get one-off things, and so you have a whole bunch of people you only know one song from.
Yeah.
It's like, and sometimes maybe that's a fluke where it's like, yeah, it turns out this one song was different than all the other stuff you make, and I don't actually care for most of your stuff. Sometimes that happens. But sometimes you find that you got a whole bunch of stuff. And it's partially because there's a part of me that's been bit by the, shall we say, not exactly, it's not analog, because CDs aren't analog. Certainly, and most of the time, a lot of modern stuff doesn't even get CDs anymore.
Physical copy.
Yeah, hard copy, I guess, even in the digital form, where it's like, I've been looking into a musical platform called, I presume it's pronounced Qobiz. I don't know if that's truly how it's pronounced. It's spelled Qobuz, which is dumb. It is allegedly named after a Mongolian instrument, which is spelled Kobiz, which is how I'm assuming the pronunciation is that. I somehow have to get across here, but I don't know how to do this. I don't see any ledge climbable type stuff.
Not zingle-zangle on the shrubbery up top?
I mean, this?
No, Escape!
It's just going to put me, it's never going to put me back on the right side.
Well, I mean, but the other,
Ain't-
try to
What? What?
be the
I can't do nothing to
upper
these.
section.
I'll be your upper section.
Yeah, okay,
Nothing.
that's what I was checking.
I don't know where I'm going. I don't even know what I'm doing. Track Harley Quinn's movements. Is that what we're doing now? Batman's got better things to do than save people. He's just got to track Harley Quinn's movements. Okay.
Bruce, I'm tracking! Master Bruce.
Okay, we're going this way. So yeah, the thing that it does. I see. That was a way to do that.
He yanks grates off one little inch at a time, but that way he's just going to be like, get that thing off here. We don't need that.
There we go. So it's effectively like audiophile Spotify. At least that's what they claim. I have not. I've literally only just started using it. The main thing that they do is they boast having the highest res streamable files. So it's like they actually basically will have studio grade.
They keep like the 60 rather
Yeah,
than
the studio grade files that they then stream.
Yeah.
And then you can purchase those studio grade albums from them.
Oh.
Come on! Oh, you great big Wally. I have to do it all again? Well, that's rude. This is how I'm feeling, audience.
Him and the mayor. This is... Oh, no. That's right. Don't get it up. Just get up.
I gotta do it 3 times in a row, which I find stupid.
Well, once isn't enough.
Ooh, goodness me.
If we learned anything from the mayor, it's that we can go a long time.
That, I don't think it's how such a door would work. But okay. So
Rock was lifted by God himself. There was no mechanism for that at all. Like, literally.
Oh, hello. That was a little bit anticlimactic. I didn't expect him to be here. Anyway, I've been experimenting with that, and I will hopefully be able to actually purchase nice quality, twist, stuff. Because I like having nice, high-quality stuff. I'm interested in the more deliberate, I guess, music curation as opposed to just mindless listening. But I said it's all experimental, so I don't know. Maybe I'll abandon it. I'm currently only on a free trial because I don't know. The thing about what makes it hard is I've now got to like populate it with all the stuff that I like because it doesn't know, unlike YouTube, which has known forever what I like. Get him! Get him! Get him! Get him!
All right. After this here.
Hi. I don't like the way you're approaching me. Don't go hurling bodies. No thank you. No thank you to this either. I want one of you to charge me so that I can give you the whip zap and then zip zap your dingle dong. Stay away from me.
Oh, that's just fine if you don't mind going
Wee-
zip zopping about town.
Get him, get him, get him, get him, get him. Not you, the other fella. Oh, he's gonna get up. Oh, no, never mind, I got him. Yeah, fight the other guy. That's great. Get him. Whack him up. I got flies up in my face. Get out of here.
Por si los moscas.
No! Oh, whoop, nope. Pimp slap forever.
That's my new album name.
Hey, I'd buy it. It's interesting enough.
Pimp slap forever.
Someone's got to have done that. It was
Well,
Limp Bizkit's first album.
you have, yeah, that's exactly.
It's hot and sweaty in here.
Yeah.
I'm making gravy.
I'd like to get out. We cannot get out.
I suppose we could use that. I'd like to get out. Just have that be the end. Are you actually going to do this, though?
Well, I mean, I might as well give it a shot. But
Okay,
then we
you're going to
can-
ruin our good, perfect ending.
I'm
if you're
good
rubbish,
if you just...
if you're rubbish at it all,
Yeah, exactly. End it there if I'm rubbish. But if it's not, then whatever. You know, I can't help but feel that
if
the
you're
guy
one-
that got shot in the arm got off easy.
I don't know that getting shot in the abs would be that much worse. Lots of muscle in both areas. It wouldn't be like getting hit in the bones. Whoop. It is just a graphical thing. Well, now you gotta zap him with your
Oh.
forget me stick.
Where is
Batarang.
my forget me stick?
Batarangs when they charge, and then when they fumble into
Yeah,
the
but
wall.
I can't.
And then when they
With
fumble
the
into the wall, he's gonna
batarangs.
hurl a body. You don't have to use the physical batarang. You could just use the double
Where-
tap batarang.
I double tap this, right? No, which one is it?
Double tap this. Is that you taunting them?
Which one is the double
Let
tap?
me pull you off.
I'm getting just absolutely pwned. Never mind, we'll end it there.
Okay.
All right.